Please be seated.
Just before we start, welcome Geshe Sherab, welcome everybody to Cultivating Center. We're very excited to have Geshe Sherab with us this morning, and hopefully he will move our minds in the right direction with this brief teaching. Geshe Sherab, when you're ready.
Thank you. Thank you. So good morning, everyone. Again, I would like to start with a short breathing exercise to quiet our mind, to bring our mind moment present, and then trying to generate good intention, motivation for being here before we actually go through the talk. Okay.
And we also have some prayers. I think Jennifer is at Muse.
Yes, the mandala, a short mandala offering, and then
Okay.
prayers maybe before or after meditation.
Okay. After. So make yourself relaxed, comfortable. And try to keep your back straight. That always helps to be more alert, awake. And as you inhale and exhale naturally, try to keep your mind observing the breath. And being aware of what you observe. Once your mind has been settled down, quiet, then we can think. May I ask, coming here together to listen and to reflect, contemplate. May all of this become cause and conditioned to transform our mind, our attitude, so that we can deal with any kind of challenges, difficulties with more positive mind, with more positive attitude. Regardless of what happened in our life and around us. And may it become cause and conditions to achieve our awakening state, so we can be greater and better help, benefit to oneself and all other beings. Okay, so then we can do the.
So for those of you who have the prayer book, and if our Zoom host could share the prayers. We're going to start with just a short mandala offering to request teachings and accumulate the positive causes and conditions for ourselves to benefit from the teachings. Sajivoki Meso Idam Guru Radam Nandam Sangye Chodam Sogi Jogam Da Jam Bada Dagi Kyapsuji Dagi Chunyengi Pesonam Ki Droga Pancha Sangye Chobo Shok Sangye Chodam Sogi Jogam Da Jam Bada Dagi Kyapsuji Dagi Chunyengi Pesonam Ki Droga Pancha Sangye Chobo Shok Sangye Chodam Sogi Chognam La Jansu Badu Dagni Kyapsuji Dagi Chunyengi Pesonam Ki Droga Pancha Sangye Chobo Shok.
So today's the topics, lojong in Tibetan means mind training or transformations. Of course, there are many different texts on lojong, and this is one of them. with only 8 verses, in terms of, it's very short, only 8 verses. But in terms of practice, it could be lifetime or even more. And many of you have already studied, read many times, and probably there isn't something new perspective that I might be able to offer. But again, it can be a good reminder that we all need time to time, and especially in difficult time that we are experiencing. Maybe some of us or some of you might go into some personal challenges in your own personal life. On top of that, we experience a lot of challenges as a country, and then many challenges that we see around the world, not only as in just this country, but all over the world, different challenge with different issues, different difficulties. You constantly see, you constantly hear, and those can bother our mind, affect our mind, that could lead us to be, frustrated, sometimes anger, frustrations, hopeless, all different feeling could arise because of what we experience personal level or as a collectively on that. And I think in those times, these lojongs are very, very powerful. If we can apply into the practice, is one thing that we know intellectually, but we don't really apply into practice, then that might not have much benefit in terms of transformations. But if we are able to apply even just 10% or even less than 10% of what I taught here, it could make huge difference in dealing with our emotions. We might not be able to change the external situation itself, but we can deal emotionally better by having that kind of perspective, different perspective at looking the situation with from different perspective than normally we try to see, So therefore, and of course also, if we really practice fully this what is taught here, then of course, definitely we will feel more compassion, more kind, more patience, all these qualities. And with all of that, also we might be able to do better, more to the more contribution towards the better change. Yeah. At the moment, sometimes we become indifferent, sometimes we become frustrated, hopeless, all those things. But someone who really can take those teachings and into really practice, nor they will feel hopeless, nor they will feel so frustrated, angry, but still they are able to keep their mind calm, hopeful, positive, and out of that true concern, compassion, they will be able to participate and act for the positive changes that we want to see, So the 8 verses of mind, training the mind by Geshe Sherab, Geshe Sherab was one of the Tibetan masters, Katamba masters, around maybe 10, 11 centuries, Um, And if we try to understand the Buddhism, if we summarize all the Buddhist teachings, we could say that it can be summarized in the wisdom and actions, the actions of nonviolence that is driven by the wisdom of understanding of dependent arisings. Because everything is dependent arisings, everything interconnected, interrelated, and therefore with that understanding, based on that understanding of dependent arisings, therefore, that we should act non-violence out of compassion. So what we call wisdom and the method. So the view or the wisdom of dependent arising and the method of non-violence. And non-violence meaning, as the Lamas always says, on minimum level, non-violence means not responding with the violent. That means not only physically violent, verbally violent, also emotionally, mentally violent. Sometimes we might not act physically violent, verbally violent, but we might act mentally violent. That means having a negative feelings, wishing the other person to have something bad. That is negative violent in emotional, mentally. We might not say anything, but if we wish that person miserable, someone we dislike, someone we don't agree, someone we hate, then if we wish them something miserable, that is mental violent, ill will feeling, wishing someone miserable, wanting someone to have a miserable. So we try to, non-violence is reframing from all these physical level, verbal level, mental level. On top of that, not only we try to refrain from those kind of violent actions through any of three doors, but also you go further to help and benefit. Not only we don't respond violently in that way, but we try to help and benefit out of that loving kindness, compassion, as much as we can according to our individual capacity, ability, So that is what we call nonviolence, so the act or the contact of the nonviolence. So you can summarize in those two, the view, the wisdom, and the contact, the nonviolence actions or conduct or method. And in here, then, even it's 8 verses, but it covered that both. First 7 verses is more related with the method. And the last verses is more related with that wisdom. Okay. In the verse number 1, where it says, by thinking of all sentient beings as more precious and wish-fulfilling jewel, for accomplishing the highest aim, I will always hold them dear. So this is training the mind to hold and to feel how each and every sentient being is very dear and precious to us. At the moment, we might feel someone dear and precious, but maybe only one person. Sometimes maybe we might not even have one person where we really feel that person is very precious and very dear. Sometimes we might have one. Sometimes we might have maybe 10, 20, but still limited. We cannot feel that for all sentient beings. So here the training is to be able to feel that kind of close, dear preciousness of each and every sentient beings. Whether we agree on a lot of things or not. We might disagree on many things, but still it doesn't mean, that Even in our life, someone you feel precious in your life, close to you, very dear to you, we don't agree everything with them. That doesn't mean we agree everything. We still have disagreements, but still you feel they are very dear and close. So you have sense of real concern, sense of caring, compassion. So that is where the training comes here, to be able to feel that with every sentient beings, regardless whether you agree on different issues, you agree or you disagree, but to be able to personally to feel that by understanding, by contemplating, reflecting, meditating, and through having, by reflecting, contemplating, how each and every sentient being is so precious, then wish fulfilling jewels. Supposedly you have some kind of wish fulfilling jewels where if you make your wish, the wish come up, wish is fulfilled. Your wish are fulfilled. If you have something like that, of course, we will hold it very precious. Oh, now I want to have a, I don't know, burger. It comes up. Oh, I want to be in Central Park. You are in the middle of Central Park. So if there is something like that, where you make wishes and your wish fulfill in that way, wouldn't we hold that very precious, very dear, very valuable? So here what the author is saying, we should try to understand how each and every sentient being is even more precious than such jewels, wish fulfilling jewels. Because the ultimate wish for us is to achieve our highest potential, our best of ourselves, the perfect, complete state of ourselves being. That is what we call fully awakened state, fully enlightened state. And the only way with that we can achieve that fully awakened state, fully enlightened state, is if we can feel unbiased, equal love, compassion in each and every sentient being. So each and every sentient being is object of that. In that way, each and every sentient being play a role for us to develop that compassion. And on the basis of that unconditional, unbiased love, compassion, then one can be able to develop bodhicitta. And by having the bodhicitta, that is where you lead to a fully enlightened state. And without that, if we fail to have compassion for one sentient beings, then you cannot develop what we call great compassions, unbiased compassion, because your compassion is sitting biased because you excluded one person or one being. And if we don't have that compassion, there's no bodhicitta. If you don't have bodhicitta, then there's no way to achieve fully enlightenment. So in that case, you are stuck. We are stuck there from cultivating great compassion because of one being. So it's because of that one being. So in that way, each and every sentient play a role indirectly to cultivate that, undiscriminating, unbiased compassions. And that is the root cause of what we call bodhicitta, the mind of awakening. And without that bodhicitta, there's no fully awakened state. And so therefore, that is why they are even more precious than wish fulfilling jewels to understanding that. Also, another way of looking at that, is So we can meditate, contemplate, how every comfort, the joy, happiness, success that we experience in our life, they all are depending on other sentient beings. The clothes we are wearing, we don't create ourselves, all of them. Even you are able to sew yourself. Still, you need the raw materials. You don't create your own raw materials. So if you look at it, it's depending on so many sentient beings. In case of our case, maybe we buy from the market, But if there is no one who is selling the market, your money has no meaning. It's just a paper. You can take your billions of money and go to the moon and see what you can get there, So your wealth, your money become useless unless there are other beings who are creating those materials that you can buy and use it. And so if we look on everything, the clothes that help us to keep warm, to protect us from sun, protect us from wind, protect all this, to protect, to keep warm, protect the food that we enjoy every day. Also, if there's no grocery shops to buy, and if there is no farmers who plant there, if there are no people who transport those. So again, and if we look in that, everything from morning to evening, whatever we enjoy, the house we live in, the different things that we use in our everyday life, our phone, everything's pen, phone, papers, everything's. If we look, everything that give us, make us convenience, everything, it comes through the direct or indirect contributions of others. There are others who are contributed directly, and there are others who are contributed indirectly. Whether they had the intention or not, but we get the benefit. Because sometimes we say, why should I feel kindness of them? I paid the money, they don't have intention to help me, But again, many of you hold your house, very dear. You protect it, your car, your other things. You hold them close to you, dear to you, try to protect them. Even though they don't have intention to help you, because you get benefit from them. It makes your life more easier. You get convenience. So because you benefit from them, so you try to take care of them, hold them precious, protect them. Same way we try to think, regardless whether they have the intention to help me or not, but I'm very dependent on them, directly, indirectly, to get all this benefit, and therefore they are dear to me, precious, So that is where we try to develop that sense of preciousness, sense of dearness. And if you can feel each and every sentient being's precious and dear by reflecting, contemplating in those different ways, then you feel them close to you, you close to them. If you can feel if you feel them close to you, dear to you, then it is easy to develop loving kindness, compassion, sense of caring, So then, and if you have compassion to them, then our interaction is different. Even when we disagree, the way we interact them is different than when you hate someone. Okay? You hate someone and you have disagreement. You love someone and you have same disagreement. How will you interact? Very differently. And so that is where the difference comes, because you don't have bad feelings. Even you disagree and you will try to communicate, you will discuss, you will argue, you will have debate, but there is no bad feeling, ill feeling towards each other. And when you don't have that, you don't have to suffer because of that bad feeling yourself, because of the anger, because of the resentment, because of the hateful thoughts. All of that, we don't have to suffer because of that on emotional level. And then when you don't have those feelings, and even when you disagree, and even when you have debate or discussions, there is always going to be more constructive, better decision, better discussions, better debate, and you will find better result from that. Because both of them, when you don't have that bad feeling to each other, and so then you always have better result. You are able to find, despite those differences, you will be able to find a way out from there, where there is common kind of agreement, where I don't get everything I want, you don't get everything you want, but we will find a way where it can work for everyone. But when there is that kind of bad feeling to each other's, then it is like both. I'm not giving 1 inch to each of you. Either I get everything what I want, that kind of attitudes can come because there is so much, distrust to each other's, because of so much anger, hatred, and those feelings. So one, when we have those feelings, you suffer on emotionally because of those feelings, and then also we wouldn't get a better result, outcome, whatever differences we have in relation to whatever problem it is. But when there is a sense of feeling of dear to each other, feeling of close to each other's, feeling of sense of care and love to each other's, still we might have same differences, but we will be able to, we don't suffer on emotional, and we will find better way to solve the problem or solve the differences. So you have better result from that, And when you have that feeling of them dear, close, precious, then definitely, it becomes easy to develop unconditional love and compassion, easy to develop love and compassion. On the other hand, when we have distrust, anger, so on, it's hard to have any sense of true love, compassion. So that is the first training. Even that first training, first verse seems lifetime practice, isn't it? Not so easy to be able to really put into full practice, totally, completely. But we try as much as we can, slow by slow, as long as we keep on trying, we will reach there one day. If you don't try, then you never reach there. So that is the first verse, training to see and to feel each and every sentient beings very dear, very precious, each of them, all. In the second verse, here it says, whenever I am in the company of others, I will regard myself as the lowest among all, and from the depth of my heart cherish others as supreme. Not easy. It's not easy. And it's not easy, especially in our, modern time, where even the educations, the society, enforce, that you should feel you are the superior, you are the best, where you are being enforced, you should always think you are the best. You shouldn't think, you are less, But here he's saying almost like opposite of that. You should feel you are the Lord of all, others the supreme, the best. It's very practical. Here, the teachings, here is in those Mahayanas Buddhist teachings, is regarded our selfish attitude, the self-cherishing thought is the root of all the problems. The problem is the clashes of two-person ego. Conflict. Why we have conflict? Because of clashes of two egos. The other things, they know better. The other things, my idea is better, I'm better, my policy is better. And the other doesn't agree with that. The other things, the opposite of that things, my policy is better, my idea is better. So it's always about me, and mine are always better, superior, greater. And so because of that, that is where the clashes comes, conflict comes, and that is the root of all the problem and suffering. The what we call selfish attitudes, self-cherishing ego, And that kind of mind is there where you feel you are, and there's a sense of feeling of superiority. And sometimes on surface, we might not feel, I don't feel I'm superiority, but deep inside there is that feeling, Deep inside there is that feeling, And so to encounter that kind of attitude of feeling that I'm superior, I'm better, then we train our minds so I'm not better, I'm the worst. The other one is the better. By training that way, then that ego, feeling that I'm better and superior, become less. So we have to understand the purpose of such meditation, why we do such kind of contemplation, meditations in these verses, for example, is to reduce that sense of superiority. How can we reduce sense of superiority when you feel someone's superiority? Is by seeing the other is better than me. When you see to whom you feel they are inferior and you are superior to them, when you try to contemplate and see they are actually better, then your sense of feeling you are superior to reduce. The delusional pride, the arrogant, that is driven by the sense of superiority of yourself and other inferior on the on the basis of lot of things. Sometimes we might feel we are better, superior based on our background, based on our educations, based on our studies, based on our genders, based on so many things that can make us feel I'm superior and better than someone, based on your political view, based on your religions, based on so many other things, that one might feel that I am better and superior than someone else. And that is another problem, everyone's feel their political view are better than others. Everyone feels their spiritual views or their religions or spiritual views are better than others, uh, and so on. So that is where. Um,
Can I ask a question?
yes, please.
Is it, I don't know, as far as, like, this is me, this is everyone else, am I lowering myself or am I raising everyone else? Or is it a combination of both?
Yeah, I think there is a two way of taking these verses. You can take it literally and non-literally. I think someone who have, let's say, we call bodhicitta mind, okay, awakening mind through training. For them, they can take this literally, and still it will not knock down their self-confidence. Okay. Someone who has what we call awakening bodhicitta mind, because they have their realizations, they have incredible self-confidence, and courageous. Someone who have already have incredible self-confidence and courageous, even they practice this on very literally, that I'm Lord to everyone and everyone is supreme to me, it will not be able to knock down their self-confidence and courage. Okay. But for others who doesn't have that kind of strong, unshakable self-confidence and courageous, sometimes if you take it too literally, this one, maybe for someone who is already feeling low, might not be the best ideas. And a lot of those practices are like that, on what level you are. Depending on that, you can practice, and on different levels. And for here, sometimes we can feel, if someone is feeling low, and to uplift themselves, they can think about that I'm good at this, I'm better in this. So to uplift, I might not be best in everything, but I'm good at this, I'm better at this. So that helps to uplift your mind. But sometimes if it leads to arrogant, delusional pride, sense of superiority, that is not good for you, not healthy for you, nor is good and healthy for the society that we live in. And we have to reduce that kind of feeling of arrogant, delusional pride, sense of feeling superiority. And for that, then, if I'm feeling superior to someone on the basis of something, then I think on some other area, that person is better than me, Some area, I'm better than that person. But on many other areas, there are a lot of other qualities he or she does better than me. So you focus on that so that it doesn't allow yourself to feel superior to that person because you are doing better in one area than that person's. Because a lot of time we feel superior and other inferior based on one area, two areas of field that we are better and we think. But if you reflect, the other person might be much more better in many other areas. Things that he or she can do that you cannot perform, And so that is what we do. We try to meditate, contemplate, and thereby not giving any space to feel superiority and putting the others down, feeling them inferior than yourself. And that is the whole point, not to allow that delusional pride, the arrogance, superiority over. And so that is where the meditations comes into. Yes.
So to what extent does successful or somewhat successful practice of this second line depend on, you know, having some kind of glimpse of selflessness or Buddha nature? Does that make it more likely or help with the practice?
To have better result of these meditations? Well, this meditation is, mainly to not allow ourselves to feel superior, arrogant, based on that. And so therefore, in that cases, then, if we are feeling superior to someone else, and try to think the positive quality of that persons, which we might not have, something they do better than us. And so therefore, when you are really aware of that, when you really feel, he or she is better in these areas, in those areas, then, how can I be feeling so superior because I'm doing better here, because they are doing better on other areas. So that helps us not to feel the superiority. And I think that is where you try to. Another meditation like you find in, like such as, Abhidharma koshas is to overcome sense of to reduce the pride, the delusional pride, not the constructive pride, delusional pride, the arrogance, the superiority. Also just even meditating on, the aggregates, our own aggregate, meditating on our own element, meditating on, our sense faculties and so forth. We don't know much about ourselves if you really meditate, aggregate. We don't even know much about our own body. Even the professional who are in medicine, who learn all about body, still they don't know all the things. Some doctors' specialty, they know about something, some area, but they don't know everything about your own bodies, functioning of that, all of that. When you don't know your own, forget about other things, your own body, how can you be so arrogant? That is the whole thing. And if you go to try to understand about your own physical aggregates, feeling aggregates, all of that, when you go through all 5 aggregates, or when you go through all different, 12 or 18 elements, and 12 sense sources and so forth, when you try to meditate each of them, then we begin to realize I don't know so much about myself. Very little I know about myself. And when we don't know so much about ourselves, how can we be so arrogant towards someone? So again, that kind of meditation can be also helpful, as in those Abhidharma, they said that. Yes, please.
Thank you for teaching. How do you work with this on for somebody who acts very non-virtuous? Let's say as an example, a murderer, right? I can understand working with meditation to bring them to an equal status, Buddha nature or whatever. But how do you raise them when they've acted very non-virtuous? What do you tend to focus on?
I think when in that case, we try to focus on what led them to that state, a lot of time, situations, circumstances lead those people in that kind of situation, murderers, whatever, sometimes it's something to do with the childhood. They themselves experience a lot of violence and upbringings, instant things that happens. Of course, if we talk about previous karma, there is that part too. But even we don't talk about the previous karmic imprint. But even this lifetime, there are a lot of situation, environment that have made them who they becomes in a lot of times. So through that understanding, instead of being upset and angry, we feel compassion. I can understand. I don't agree with such behavior and action, but I can understand why he or she is doing that. And they're able to feel compassion for them. So not allowing to be upset and angry, but instead feeling compassion. I think if we give an example of animals, dogs, maybe it's better because we can, easy for that. A dog which has been abused, okay? Let's say you adapt a dog from the shelter that has been very badly abused from the child. And because of that, there's a lot of fear in that dog. Because that fear, when they see something or something, they become aggressive, you know? Their response is aggressive. Because that aggressiveness comes from that fear of what they have experienced. Even someone not trying to hurt them, trying to help them, but for in there, because their experience, it feels like they are trying to hurt them. Someone who know exactly the story of that dog, what has been, and when they understand that. Still they try to teach them not to be aggressive, you know. But at the same time, they understand why that is aggressive. And so they don't get so upset and angry. They feel compassion because they can see how much fear there is. They can see the reason why they're responding like this because there's the fear from the past experiences. And so similarly, if we apply that to human beings, similar, you know, when someone's acting, behaving certain things is triggered by something from the past that they had bad experience. And for us, sometimes it's hard. It's hard us to understand with the animals, such as a dog, but it's much more harder for us to feel same way for the human beings, because we feel that human beings have ability, unlike like the animals, to have control. But again, we know the human being also doesn't have full control. We know with our own experience, you know. We don't want to get nobody here we want to get upset and angry. But do we get upset and angry? Yes, sometimes. If you have control, you wouldn't get upset and angry because that is something that you don't want to. But sometimes situation happens and those emotions just arises without any kind of control. And so therefore, I think, so through such understanding, the main thing is we don't try to get upset and angry by understanding, that there is something that is triggering them to behave that is driven by past experience, fear, all of that. And so they are suffering a lot, inside. And the problem with this, we cannot read their inside, so we don't see their pain and suffering. And then that is hard for us to feel compassion because we cannot really feel their pain and sufferings because it is not so obvious, you know. Whereas with maybe dog is a little bit more easy to understand that maybe we get the full history of that when you get from the shelters, what has happened on it. And so I think, but with human beings, sometimes it's hard to know, so that is one thing that makes challenges. So from that perspective, then we try to, and it is not an excuse for them to excuse and being okay with that kind of behavior, we will try to definitely, you will try to, mm, you you will try to take actions to not to allow that to happen in whatever way we can to stop such kind of murderous behavior or harmful behavior or actions. But when you do two actions to protest, to protect, to whatever, with what kind of state of mind that you engage in, that is the key. Are we engaging with the anger? Or we are engaging with sense of compassion, patience, with same actions? Resisting, if we need to resist someone's behavior, harmful behavior, taking the same action in terms of resisting that, but with what state of mind? Key is that one, and so that is where, again, it's not easy, but, and so on top of that, on top of with that understanding, then we can think, even someone's a murderous, but they can have many other qualities, they could be smart person, they could be very high IQ person, they could be very good at other things. So again, there are good things that we can see better in ourselves, even though they are not good in certain area in case of being a murderous such behavior, but in other areas they can be better. On basis of that, how can I be superior, feel superior based on that, yeah. So that is the second, okay. And again, if you take, His Holiness Dalai Lama share stories. He says sometimes when you feel someone is kind of, somehow behaving a certain way, where that they are trying to put him down or some in certain way, then he said, he tried to meditate that he is the Lord of all, and even Lord to that person's, and hold that person's superior to that, and it says it helped him to reduce whatever possible negative reaction or feeling that could arise because that person's attitude or behavior, almost like putting you down or looking at down in a certain way, to encounter that. He said he find very helpful and beneficial in that, And I mean, Katamba Master have many stories of how they deal and how they take these teachings. Some Katamba masters, yeah. So again, yeah, as I mentioned, anyway, maybe that's good. Okay. Otherwise, we will not finish. In verse number 3, in my every action, I will watch my mind, and the moment distracting emotion arises, I will confront them very strongly and avert them, since they will hurt both me and others. So being mindful throughout the day, all the time, watching your mind all the time, And as I mentioned, it's hard to be mindful 24 hours all the time. Not only 24 hours, even during the awake time, 10 hours for us at the very beginning, unless someone has really trained themselves well and reached that point. But at the very beginning, maybe you could do, you could have a reminder, some alarm or some kind of ringing of the gong bell in your phone, every 2 hours, every 3, it rings. When it rings, is a reminder you to check your mind, what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling at the moment, what is going in my mind, Maybe at the very beginning you can do 3, 4 times a day, then slowly maybe 6 times, 8 times, slowly 10 times, 12 times, and slowly you don't need that reminders. Because you get so used to that, and then you are able to be more mindful and watch your thoughts, your feelings, your emotion that moment. And then slowly the practice is to be able to be mindful and aware all the time. Hopefully that is where we want to reach point. And each time we recognize when you are mindful or when you are watchful and watching your thought, your feeling, your mind, when you notice any of those distracting negative emotion arising, whether it is a desire, whether it is a jealousy, whether it is a bitterness, anger, hateful feelings, impatience, frustrations, whatever those feeling arises, mindful and be aware and recognize that, oh, anger is arising. Oh, now desire is arising. Oh, now, jealousy is arising. Jealousy mind is arising. Or the mind of superiority is arising. And then, recognizing, oh, when this destructive negative emotion arises, it hurts and harms me immediately, because when that mind arises, it disturbs our peaceful mind. In that moment, whatever peaceful mind we had is no more there because of that emotions, that feelings. It disturbs your peaceful mind, And when your peaceful mind is disturbed, then you don't enjoy whatever you are doing. You cannot really enjoy whether you are eating, whether you are relaxing, whatever you are doing, because your mind has been disturbed, agitated by that emotion, that feelings. So it hurts you because it disturbs your peace, calmness, joy. And then again, it leaves the imprint in your mind with that kind of negative emotions, and you are more likely to have that negative emotion more easily in the futures, because it's kind of imprint. Your mind started to react in that way more often, because that is your mind get used to that kind of response and that way of reacting. And that's that imprint. The more you do it, the more it started to react that more way. And so in that way, it hurts and harms you. And then, of course, if you talk from karmic point of view, then that is totally different. Totally different. Again, we don't need to go there at the moment, But even that moment, and it hurt. And then when we are disturbed by that, then we tend to be more hurtful and harmful to others. When you are impatient, small things can trigger you to be upset and angry. And when you're upset and angry, then you respond, harmful way. When you're patient, even sometimes quite big things doesn't trigger you so easy. When your mind is not good state, when your mind is not happy, disturbed, impatient, and so forth, sometimes even someone trying to do nice to you, it can still make you upset, trigger you. I myself experienced that. When I was studying in the monastery, earlier, I had another monks in the next room, and I had my own schedules, and afternoon, I do my practice. There are certain period, I think, like 2 to 3, 4, and when I do my practice at the very beginning, when I was trying to be a little bit too rigid, I don't want to speak with everyone. I just want to silent, do practice. And and he make a tea at that time, it's his tea time. And with his good intention, he will come and knock my window or that. I've come and tea, And even though he was doing the best intentions, it started to bother you, At the very beginning, you don't have so much negative thoughts, But again, when it happens for a long time, then you start, is he really trying to disturb me, He doesn't have any really thought of disturbing you. He just wanted to offer a tea, good intentions. But in your mind, you started to think, doesn't he see me doing my practice? Is he intentionally trying to disturb my practice? So that kind of, even someone trying to help you, instead of appreciating the help, acknowledging, appreciate, your mind started getting negative because your mind was already disturbed. And so your mind disturbed, your mind started to create a lot of stories around it and all nonsense stories, and which in the end, you suffer yourself. It took me a little while to recognize that, And then once I recognized that, then I said, why should be so rigid, When you come and offer tea, I just go and have the tea and come back and do the practice, And so this is just a small example that happens in our life many times like that. How small things, sometimes even when someone trying to help you, can you make you negative because your mind is in a good state. Mm. So that is why by understanding how, by understanding those destructive negative emotions hurts you, harm you immediately and in the long term, short term, long term, immediately, also in the futures, and it also hurts others, harm others, directly, indirectly. With that understanding, the moment we recognize and aware one of those afflictive emotion arises, then you try to apply antidote, whatever practice meditations you have to reduce them, and not giving the space for those destructive emotions take over you. Try to avert by applying the antidotes as soon as possible. The more time you give them, the more space you give them, the more distraction it does for you. The sooner you are able to get out of from your mind, the better it is for yourself and for others. Also, that is the practicing mindfulness throughout the day, all the time, and one of the okay, I know. Let's go. Whenever I see ill-natured beings, or those overwhelmed by heavy misdeed or sufferings, I will cherish them as something rare, as though I found a priceless treasure. So, sometimes we see individuals with so much, engaged in such a harmful actions, and those harmful actions, why they are so, cruel, mean, definitely their previous karmic imprint, and also, conditions, as I mentioned before, different conditions that might have make them and act them to be very unkind, cruel, So again, past karmic imprint as well as immediate condition where they grow or people surrounding them and so forth. Many, not one condition, many conditions that contributes towards that, And again, in such, when we see that again, our mind get a bit disturbed by that. And we get a bit upset with such people and angry, sometimes hateful as well, if we don't take care of our mind. If we don't, at the very beginning, it may be upset, and slowly, then hateful. And when it becomes hateful, then you really started to feel miserable for them, you wish all kind of bad things. So, so sometimes that happens, And sometimes there are people who are suffering so much overwhelmed by intense sufferings. And because we don't know how to deal with them, we become indifferent. You know, we try to create a wall. We try to create a wall so that we cannot feel their pain, you know, because maybe we don't know how to deal with them, or we're afraid, fearful, whatever, you know. So again, and then thereby we don't have feeling of concern for them, feeling of empathy, compassion. We cannot feel empathy, compassion because we have created a wall to feel that, you know. So here, so there those kind of two different response, you know, that. And so again, here, whenever we see that, again, you know, instead of doing that, then we train, you know, to cherish them, you know, holding them dear, close, precious, and cherish them as we will cherish. If you find a priceless treasure, you know, if you find a treasure, you know, you will hold very dearly. You will cherish them very much in the same way. And again, as we mentioned before, you know, by understanding, you know, this is a great opportunity for us to develop our spiritual path, you know, in both cases, you know. Here, this being who is overwhelmed by so much pain and suffering, how can I build myself wall and block myself from feelings? It's such a great opportunity to allow my mind to feel it and to feel love, compassion, and my own spiritual growth, you know. So then, you know, instead of trying to build a wall, we overcome that and try to really feel for them. By feeling them close, dear, precious, cherishing, feeling compassion, sense of care, love, empathy. Even those who are very mean, cruel, you know, again, as we mentioned before, while you try to take action to stop such cruel behavior and action, because it harms and hurts so many beings, including themselves in long terms, we try to take every action to stop such hurtful, mean, but at the same time without anger, you know, instead with cherishing, dear, just like you have a child or your pet, you cherish, you love, you care. But when they try to behave cruelly, you try to stop them, you know. Not because you have anger, but because of your compassion, because you cherish them. You don't want them to get in trouble. You don't want them getting in trouble. Nor you don't want to see them giving trouble to others, and nor you want to see them in trouble because you care about them. So you try to, when they try to do something that can get them and others in trouble, you try to help them not to get it. But because you cherish them, not because you are upset and angry with them. So that is where here is the training is, you know. Again, to that we, as I understand, you know, we try to see same, you know, animals, human beings, they tend to be more cruel, aggressive, violent when they're suffering more. When they are not suffering, when they feel peace, you know, not afraid, not scared, calm, peaceful, they are less aggressive. They are less violent. But the moment they feel insecure, fear, that's when, you know, to protect themselves, they seems to be more aggressive, more violent. And same with the human being, that when someone is behaving that means there's so much going inside. You know, the fear, worry, anxieties, all different things that might be going. So again, by that understanding their pain and sufferings, we try to feel them, while we totally disagree with their harmful behavior and action and take the action to that. So that is where training to see them, that as though you have found priceless treasure and cherish them very dearly. Next one, whenever someone out of envy, of course, it can be out of envy or any of the afflictive emotions. It can be out of attachment. It can be out of anger, whatever, does me wrong by attacking or belittling me, I will take defeat upon myself and give the victory to others. Again, very difficult to do that. We don't want to, we always want the victory for ourselves. We don't want to take the defeat. If there's defeat, then it is the others. But again, here the training is totally opposite of that. The practice here is totally opposite of our, again, even this, just like the verse number 2, one can practice literally or one can practice not so literally and kind of more depending on individual practitioners. Someone who have reached high level of practice, as I mentioned, the bodhisattvas who have a strong self-confidence and courageous and all of that, they will be able to take it literally but still not knock them down, But for someone who have not reached that, if you try to take it too literally, then I can sometimes, when you are already feeling, I'm good for nothings, everything's my problems, everything, I have messed up everything's, I'm incapable of doing anything good things, Then again, in those such cases, taking this too literally might not be the best, So again, so in a more lighter version, how we can take is, whenever something happens in our life, tragedies, problem, difficulties, challenges, whether someone try to belittle us, criticize us, or look down on us, try to humiliate, whatever different things that we experience in our home, at our job places, wherever, everything, wherever in society, wherever, Of course, when that happens, and when we don't know how to deal it positively, then it gives rise to many other emotions, As mentioned, sometimes anger, sometimes frustration, sometimes hateful, sometimes, losing self-confidence, sometimes hopeless. All different feelings, different emotions could arise. And due to arising those different negative emotion feeling, again, on top of whatever happen, we suffer more because of those feelings, emotions, So by changing our perspective and by not allowing those negative feelings to arise, at least we don't have to suffer due to all these different feelings and emotions, And so that is the way it is, So one way of looking, taking the responsibility from karmic point of view can be helpful. In that way, then we don't blame everything to that person for what we're experiencing. That person's behavior is only one of the small contributions, small part contributions. It's not everything is that, Many things many conditions come together to lead to that. One of the biggest factors is our own karmic potentials. That is one of the biggest factors. Our karmic potential is one of the biggest factors. And then on top of that, there are other immediate many factor, cause and condition. And among many other factor, cause and condition, that person's action, behavior is only one of them. If other factors are not there, the person can behave that way, but we might not experience the pain and suffering of being humiliated or being criticized or by looking down. You can just say, "Oh, it's nothing." Let him or she do that, and not being bothered by that, not being affected by that. Such behavior and action. But we suffer so much because we have been bothered by that, affected by that, and because there are many other factors that come into the to feel that way. Our own way of looking at things, our own mental state, our own perspective, and karmic potentials. And then, so when we understand all this, then we don't blame everything for that. If you don't blame every type of person, you don't need to get so upset and angry. The less you blame there, the less angry, less upset. But when you blame everything that person, they're more angry and more upset and everything for that. And in that way, then, it's almost like taking some responsibility, some responsibility from the point of view of our karmic potential, from the point of view of our own mental state, from the point of view of the way we interpret the things, the way we, from our perspective, and so many other things, So I think with that, yeah. So in that way, we change. At the moment, if things goes well, we don't mind saying it's my karma, good karma. It makes totally sense. It makes totally sense, or I don't mind that. But when things go wrong, when you say it's your karma, or, how can you say that? It feel like you are giving excuse for the others to behave that way or this way, or, we get all of that, But again, if we are more fair, then if you are willing to take credit for the good things happening from karma, you should be able to take credit or responsibility when bad things happens. If you are willing to blame others when bad things happen, you should be able to give the credit to others when good things happen. But we don't do that. When good things happen, it's hard to give credit to others. We take the credit. I work hard. I did all this and this to reach where I am, to achieve what I am, all of that. It's okay. Okay. But if things goes wrong, you should be able to take responsibility the same way too. But we don't take that. Then we say, oh, if things didn't go well, I couldn't do it because he or she was not supportive, or he or she didn't do this and that. So again, that is a little bit kind of biased mind, and so even we cannot offer total victory and take total defeat on ourselves, at least we take some responsibility and not blame totally on others when things go wrong. If we are able to do that, then whatever, it wouldn't bother us so strongly towards them, and that wouldn't lead us to have so much feeling of anger and hatred, all of that. So that is one point, So if we try to take this one a little bit more lighter, in the lighter versions. Yes, please.
So heat of the moment, somebody is being hostile toward you, and it's just coming at you. And all these emotions are arising. Whatever it is, shame or
Mm-hmm.
you're feeling hurt, and all kinds of things. I guess my question is, it's like an onslaught, it's coming at you, and so within that moment, it's very hard to all of a sudden then find, where do you find, like, so you have, I have my own practices, but when this is happening and you're in the throes of it, it's hard to go all of a sudden to that place, or do you remove yourself from the room or the environment in which this is happening? Or do you try to engage with a person? But sometimes it's even difficult to engage with somebody who has such fury, right? Because they can't even control
Mhm.
what they're saying. So I guess my question is, what would you suggest in that kind of a
Like,
situation?
I guess it depends on individuals.
Yeah.
Individual, their practice. Someone who has more stronger practice and who are able to have some control of their mind and not allow those strong emotions to arise, they don't have to move. They can still kind of be that. But someone who doesn't have that kind of practice ability to do that, and it is making you feel all these negative feelings, and you don't have we are unable to control them, then I think for certain period is better to kind of retreat, and then when your mind is more calm, peaceful, and then again engage, because yeah, when you are already in the moment of anger, that person is in anger, and you are in the moment of anger, and then when you try to engage it, even though you know anger is not good, but still your emotion is still in the moment of anger, so then it doesn't help. But I think sometimes just, finding a space to just quiet, calm down, and reflect. And then when you are more calm, peaceful, and reflected, and all of that, then engage whatever it need to be clarified, whatever it need to be discussed. Then I think one might be able to engage in better. Yeah. Verse number 6. Even when someone I have helped, in whom I have placed a great hope, mistreat me very unjustly, I will view that person as true spiritual teachers. Yeah, again, it is for us, for ordinary or very beginning, is even more difficult to forgive, to let it go. When someone you have helped so much, to someone you have done so much and had a high expectation, hope for everything that you have done, they will act you in a more positive way. But when they unjustly mistreat you, it's much more hurtful. It's much more hurtful. It's much more difficult to forgive. It's much more difficult not to get upset and angry because you have done so much for them. And this is not something you expected, how they will react, how they will respond, or how they will, treat you. But again, even though you have right to be angry, upset, I says it's not about right or whether you have right to be angry or not. It's about whether it's helpful or not. You might have right to be angry, upset, even furious, but is that helping you? Is that benefiting you? Is that helping the situations? It's not helping yourself, it's not helping the situation, it's not helping no one. It doesn't get any benefit from that. It hurts and harms everyone. Therefore, even you are right to be angry, you shouldn't get angry, upset, because it's not healthy, it's not helpful. It doesn't solve the problem. And so therefore, even in such cases, then again, one shouldn't get so upset and angry and act and respond to such anger and upset and bitter and hurtful hatred feelings. And one way of countering that, the way we do is by seeing you know, the person and person's actions, seeing them as something helpful, beneficial. And the way to see that helpful, beneficial from the spiritual point of view, on spiritual level, by seeing because of that person's such behavior and actions, this person giving me opportunity to practice patience, giving a great opportunity to practice patience. If I don't have the opportunity to practice patience, I wouldn't practice. If I don't practice, there's no way I can complete that practice. The only way I can perfect good is if I practice. To practice, I need the opportunity. If there's no opportunity, you never. And from that point of view, then this person, the person's actions, and that person, especially the persons, become like your spiritual teachers, holding them as spiritual teachers. And spiritual teacher, we hold very highly, regard highly, similarly. Instead of looking with hostility, we regard very highly and precious. And so that is in training. And one of the example I give is normally in our studies. Sometimes we have in other studies as well, educations. You have theoretical teachers and practical teachers. Theoretical teachers in classroom, they explain how to do things, whether it's cooking, whether it's gardening, whether it's fixing things. And the practical teacher take you into the field and make you do, whether it's cooking, whether it's gardening, whether you're fixing something. And that's where you really grow and learn about that field. So we learn all this from theoretical teachers, from the books, from the other teachers explaining how to practice patience, all this. Now this person is saying, you have learned all of that, let's do it. Now that person is taking you in the field, making you do that. And that is the only way you can make progress. If someone really sees this in perfecting, such as practice of patience. So in that situation, if we look from that perspective, then it's very precious. Real teacher, practical teacher. Otherwise, oh, okay, 11:30. And then the 7 is kind of, the summary of the past, summary of the previous 6. In the brief, that is why it says, in the brief, directly, indirectly, I will offer help and happiness to all my mothers and secretly take upon myself all that hurt and sufferings. So this is the practice of Tonglen, taking and giving. And the practice of Tonglen, taking and giving, is a practice to cultivate true love, compassion, to increase loving kindness, compassion. So it is practice. So in this practice, through certain visualization, by using your breath, when you breathe in, you imagine, visualize taking the pain, suffering of others on yourself and destroying your selfish attitude. And then, when you breathe out, you imagine, visualize sending all your, all your wealth, all your virtues, all the positive qualities that you have, including your own body, life, in the form of whatever they need, and then they receive the happiness, temporary happiness, ultimate happiness. So that is the practice you do, using your breath, by taking the suffering and cause of sufferings and giving them the happiness and cause of happiness. Again, it is training the mind, is through such practice, you train your mind to be more courageous and to become more courageous like bodhisattvas. At the moment, we feel, I have enough suffering, I don't need any more sufferings. You know, we don't have courage to take any more sufferings. You know, I cannot share my happiness. I need that. We don't have courage to share our happiness, because if I share that happiness, what will be left from me? That is the fear we have. We have the fear of taking more sufferings, fear of sharing the happiness, giving the happiness, you know. So we have fear because we are not courageous. Again, through such practice, you know, you are training to take more sufferings and cause the suffering yourself, and to give your happiness. And at the very beginning, it feels like we are just imagining. But slowly, when someone trained, then they really feel they are really taking on them. They are really giving. It's not just kind of you are imagining, but you are really taking. And that happens when someone has trained very well, and then when their practice has reached a certain point, high level, and then it doesn't feel like you are just imagining. You are really taking. You are really giving. And with that kind of practice, then one develops incredible fearless courageous of the bodhisattvas. That's the bodhisattvas, fearless courageous, you know. And with that, then also it helps to develop, improve the loving kindness and compassion. And by cultivating a strong loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta mind, then we are able to reduce and destroy the selfish attitude. By having destroyed the selfish attitude, then you suffer less and you harm others less, you know. And with that loving kind compassion, you are able to help and benefit yourself and others more. And verse number 8 is related to wisdom. I will learn to keep all these practices, so all the practices mentioned in relation to the method, you know, loving kindness, compassion, patience, forgiveness, all of that different practice that was more related to the method side, all these practice that is mentioned here. When you want to engage in those practice, untainted by the thought of eight worldly concerns, you know, because if even when you are trying to practice patience or forgiveness or loving kindness, compassion, all others, if it is tainted by eight worldly concern, the practice is again not as pure as it can be, and then it is not as powerful as it can be. The practice is still helping, but it's not as effective, not as powerful, not as pure as it can be, because it has been tainted or diluted by those eight worldly concerns. You know, yeah. And so therefore, if we want our practice of forgiveness, you know, letting go, you know, compassion, loving kindness, patience, without being tainted by eight concern, then one need to meditate and understand that everything is like illusions. By understanding emptiness, everything is like illusions. So therefore, since, you know, gaining wealth is like an illusion, I shouldn't be attached to it. You know, since losing the wealth is like an illusion, I shouldn't have strong aversion to it, because they all, both of them are illusions, like an illusion. Happiness is like an illusion, therefore I shouldn't be so attached to it. Suffering is like an illusion, therefore I shouldn't have so much aversion to that. So cultivate more equanimity towards them through the understanding of like illusions, you know. In the same way, you know, praise, I shouldn't be so attached to praise, is like illusion. Nor I should have strong aversion to criticism, because it is also like illusions. Fame and reputation, I shouldn't be so attached to that, because it is like illusions. Also the opposite of that, you know, being insignificant, you know, no one, or even having a bad reputation, I shouldn't be so aversion to that, because that is also like illusion. And through that, then, if you are not have attachment to those four states and aversion to the other four states, and if you have more equanimity to them, then you wouldn't be so fluctuating our emotion and our life at the moment. One moment here, there, next moment here, one moment here, always like that, because it's fluctuating because of all this. Sometimes we gain, sometimes we lose, sometimes we have happiness, sometimes we have suffering, sometimes people praise us, sometimes people criticize us, sometimes we have people good reputation, people saying nice things about us, sometimes people saying bad things about you outside. And we are very much affected by all of those changes, external changes. But that wouldn't be the cases when one has some that kind of understanding. So that is where may I recognize all things as like illusions, by understanding that all of them, even though they appear inherent existence or truly existing, but they are empty of truly existence. Even they are empty of truly existing, but there is that appearance and it affects us in a certain way. Therefore, they are like illusions. And without attachment, gain freedom from the bondage of earthly concerns and all other bondage. And that explains the wisdom. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
With a short mandala often, for Geshe Sherab to remain, please, just again.
사실보 긴종신내적 좌리라리시 니제게바리 상계진도 미제보아 May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Geshe Sherab, all of us from Tibetan Center.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please come again.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Have a good day. Yes. Thank you.
Stop. We just take a minute.